What you're about to see is a pretty extraordinary interview. Bill and Helen. Bill is 100 here in a few days, and Helen is 97. I met them through their daughter, Linda, at a recent event I spoke at in Orlando. And after I was done with the interview, Linda texted me, and this is what she said. She said, I just wanted to remind you, Chip, I thought of this after we were done. Our thought process is always to be positive and know that someone has more problems than you do. It's amazing how much better you feel when you think of that and be thankful for your blessings. Be thankful for what you have versus what you don't have. She said, thank you for making us remember what's important, made us remember so many things we need to remember. And I encourage them to capture their legacy. If you go to my blog at getswitchedon.com, click on blog, go search 98 questions. And I encourage you, for your elderly relatives, to capture their legacy. As my friend Mark Sharonbrock says, once people are gone like that, the library's closed. These questions, get them on video, get nice lights, get a good microphone, and these questions, you're not going to ask all 98, but will lead them through capturing the legacy of their life so you have that for future generations. She wanted me to tell you guys, she said, hey, we never thought of age. That's a key reason why we think we're still here. She says you have no control over when you're born. So there were many times when we're asked about our age, and I really had to stop and think about what it was. And she said, this is great. I'm going to use this line in the future. She was at the doctor, and the doctor asked how old she was, and she said 1 year older than last year. She goes, it doesn't matter what age you are. It matters how you lived and what you did during your life. She said, we were always just busy doing things. So encourage you to watch this interview. Rarely do you get a chance to get into a glimpse of people's lives like this. Let me know what you think in the comments and share it with others. Thanks.
So sad.
Okay, fantastic. Hey, everybody. There's a reason you're watching this. Longevity is very important. One of the things I believe is you've got to look at your health span, not just how long you're going to live, but the quality of life long term. Current numbers are just not good. National Council on Aging's new report said at age 65, 68% of people have 2 or more chronic diseases. So obviously the numbers are getting worse. Recently, I spoke to a company. I met Linda Collette, and she told me about her parents, Bill and Helen. They're right there. And Bill is 99 and Helen is 97. They live part of the year up in upstate New York towards Buffalo, and then part of the year in Florida, which is great. And not too long ago, they were driving themselves back and forth. They live independently. Just to give us a little perspective, when they both were born, Calvin Coolidge was president, and it was the middle of the Great Depression. So I just want to introduce Bill and Helen, and just tell us just briefly, how did you guys meet?
I was on a blind date.
A blind date.
A mutual friend, in fact, next door neighbor of mine and high school classmate was dating a friend of Helen, and Helen was going to night school at UB, and they had a chain of restaurants called Your Host that were nice family and at simple places. And we waited for Helen there, and she walked in and she was beaming and smiling because she knew she was going to see somebody special.
I did not.
Yes, you did.
How long? Now, where did you guys both grow up in upstate New York, or where'd you grow up?
Well, I grew up in upstate, but Bill was from Pittsburgh.
Okay. How long after you guys met did you get married?
The following year.
Year and a half.
Yeah.
Now, just give me an idea just how you guys were raised in terms of the importance of eating well and being physically active. Your generation, obviously, a lot more physically active. That's one of the problems with people today. Sitting is killing people. They just don't move much. But kind of talk to me about how you were raised and just your philosophy on eating and exercise and being healthy.
You said something about eating well, but being in the Depression, we did not eat that. Well, at least
Yeah.
not. We were pretty poor. In fact, when I started primary first grade, my mom went to New York City to
Mhm.
work as a domestic to keep our family going. And my dad was the cook.
Hmm.
And he would make what he called hospital soup. And to me, it was essentially water with flour in it and not much else. So as a youngster,
Wow.
our menu was not what would be recommended.
Hmm.
And it took quite a while before we got on a more even keel. We fortunately could buy food from this one small store. You could get meats and other basics. And we had a small ledger book that when we went for food, we carried it and they recorded what we owed. And it took a while before we could start paying that down. And the food became a little bit better.
Right.
But
So back in the day, they were giving you credit based on what you were purchasing, knowing you were going to pay it. That's okay.
they were
Wow.
trusting, and our family ended up getting out of that ledger debt, and the food became a little bit better.
Hmm.
But all the,
Helen, were you into? I'm just curious. Were you guys ever into gardening and growing some of your own fruits
Well,
and
we
vegetables?
we
Or-
lived on a small farm.
Oh, okay, tell me about that.
We did have a garden, and thank goodness, because there were 10 of us in our family. And we would have what we had is for the food was what we grew on the farm, and we also had animals. So we would have, but we like with the 10 of us, we would have, if we had a chicken, we would have one chicken for the 10 of us. And my mother would divide the meat. So it was not a balanced food at all. We had a lot of potatoes and a lot of beans. And, you know, I think probably moving and being out in the, you know, well, you didn't call it exercise, you just
Right,
moved.
work.
And I think probably that was better for you than the food, because as far as the food was concerned, we had food, but it was not a lot of food. We always made sure we ate what we had on our plate, because that was all you're going
That
to
was it.
till the next meal came around.
Tell
So,
tell me about this, because it's interesting. I was reading an article where 70% of the food that's in a grocery store right now didn't exist like 40, 50 years ago. It's like when you were going to the store, let's say in the 40s or 50s, it must have been, they were a lot smaller and there must have been a lot fewer things, right?
oh,
Tell me about that.
absolutely. The stores now, the grocery stores are like 3 times what you'd find in a grocery store.
Yeah.
I mean, it's inconceivable as to how much food we have right now. I mean, it's
Well, so much of it is processed food. And part of the article said if it has a label on there that shows all the ingredients, that's a warning label to stay away from all those chemicals and stuff.
You never eat that, because there's all kinds of chemicals in there. And we did, as we not grew up, my mother would never, I mean, she didn't have the money to buy that kind of stuff.
Sure, sure.
But I, you know, as a young family would use that because I didn't know any better. But
Right.
Now you just don't buy any of that stuff, and that's most of the food in the grocery store. You find the food that is good for you is over in one corner, and that's about all.
Yeah, stay out of the middle of the store, right? Exactly.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So tell me now, so you 99 and 97. So tell me what you might be quote retired 30 plus years ago. So kind of tell me what you did, and then that transition when you decided to quote retire, what was your planning? What was your mindset then?
Well, when I first started working, I worked as a clerk in a insurance company, and I worked myself up to an adjuster of claims, compensation claims.
Mhm.
And then when I became pregnant, Nancy was to be born. I left and stayed home. I was a home mother, but all my whole life was volunteers, because I volunteered in the school and then I volunteered with many, many things until I was 50 and our three children were going to college. And we decided that I should go back to work to try
Right.
and help with the college education. So I became a realtor, and for
Oh
the
wow.
next 20 years, 30 years, I was a realtor and did very well. So, but the volunteering was fantastic. And the important things, I'd always say, well, you can't get fired when you're a volunteer.
Right. Well, I mean, America, we have so much to feel blessed about, and we have the highest rates of depression in the world. And all the research shows what's the best way if you're not feeling in a good state is to
Right.
serve, is to volunteer, is go help somebody else. That's fantastic.
Exactly. And
I worked for a major corporation over 40 some years.
Wow.
I enjoyed the work. I was very good at what I did. I was a good problem solver. I had a lifelong dream. In fact, I still have a copy of a write-up when I was in primary grade. And we had the answer, if you had $500, what would you do? And I said that I would buy an inexpensive car and a small trailer that I could stay in and try to travel all of the states. And I
Wow.
probably get back home and have 4 flat tires. But right at the end of my career, I could take unpaid time off if I wanted, but I fulfilled my lifelong dream,
Yeah.
and I bought a very nice motor home.
Uh-huh.
In fact, we had 3 nice motor homes. We motor homed for 19 years. The year after we bought our first one, the company that made it sponsored a tour to Alaska through an outfit that was professional, and they made all campsite arrangements and tours and all. So we went on that, and that was probably the best caravan.
Yeah. Wow.
And that was in 95. But being on the road, and we had a so-called leader wagon master and a tail gunner that followed the tail end to make sure nobody got hung up. And that was the best caravan. And our wagon master said we drove over 90% of the highways in Alaska.
Wow. Beautiful trip.
Some of these roads were not
Yeah.
paved. In fact, crossing into the U.S., we had to drive an unpaved highway for 20, 25 miles. And then you had to be very careful because people with pickup trucks and the pull trailers tried to drive in the middle, and there wasn't room.
Yeah, both coming each way, right?
But we would pass tour buses going the other way, and they were good, and so were we, but our mirrors would pass within inches of each other. But that was great, and we ended up with the third motor. The first one had no slides. The last one had 3 slides, 2
Sure.
front, 1 in the bedroom. That had as much living room as some of these rental condos do.
Sure.
But
Well,
then,
tell me about when you guys were making that transition to retirement. Had you in your 40s and 50s? Did you quote exercise? Did you go out of your way to take walks? Was there a gym you went to? I'm just curious, how did you stay in shape? What did you
we
guys?
always were very active. World War II, at the age of 17, I swore into the Navy. I was
Wow.
allowed to finish high school. I got into a very intense program called the V-12 and became an commissioned officer. But to be accepted, we had the most stringent physicals.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being examined by a group of at least 3-4 doctors. They kept pinching me, and we're wearing only jockey shorts, no shoes, nothing. And I found out later, when you get transferred, your medical record goes with you.
Mm-hmm.
The Navy had a chart, and the chart said, if you're 18 and 5'10", you should weigh 118 pounds. And you could get a first level waiver at 130. But I weighed 155, and I can guarantee it was not flab, because like during high school, I had a paper route. I had to walk 2-3 miles and then walk 2 miles to high school.
Right.
Didn't meet the criteria for free buses. And
We lived, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Well, I would say we lived about 5 miles from the school, and we didn't have buses. And my mother would take us, but sometimes we'd have to walk home. So we would walk. I mean, obviously we walked a lot, which probably gave us the exercise. And then we worked in our garden.
Sure.
And, helped in that. And while the kids were growing up, obviously you were on your feet all the time, but then when they were a little bit older, we got into playing tennis.
Okay.
And we played. Bill used to play golf, but he gave it up because he was out on a course more, and we had 3 little children, so he gave it up and played tennis. So we could play tennis. We were fortunate because there was a tennis place just down the street, so we could go down there and play. And it wasn't anything. We didn't belong to any gyms. There wasn't time.
Yeah.
We were just busy.
Have either of you, have you ever been, quote, out of shape, where you woke up one day and said, wow, I've got to get this back under control?
No.
You always maintained.
No way.
I knew it. I knew it. I just always, yeah.
I want to finish a little bit of the Navy thing in the program we were in. We had NFL football players who were naval officers that kept us in good condition.
Mm-hmm.
One very good player
Roger
was
Staubach, right?
was a Steeler named Chuck Gerondolo.
Okay.
He played both ways, center and nose guard.
Mm-hmm.
He would take us through all kinds of calisthenics. This guy was as graceful as any ballerina. And the one day he said, okay, we're going out. We go out on, I'm not sure it's about a 3-mile country run for most of us. He said, okay, I don't care if you run or you walk or you saunter, but if I beat you back here, it's going to be your ass.
Yeah.
Later, at a different location, well, she thinks I'm talking to her.
No, it's good. It's
The
fun.
Navy got us in super shape. And
Yeah.
when I started working, I started doing some Air Force exercises,
Mhm.
which I kept doing.
And he still does them, part of them.
Well, now tell me about that. So what would you hit 60, then you hit 70, then you hit your 80s. So how did you stay moving? How long did you keep playing tennis? I'm just curious. What were the habits? What were the things you've done to sustain it physically and mentally? I'm curious.
I played tennis into my early 90s. And then when I couldn't make the moves, this was doubles now. I said, well, unfortunately, I've got to give it up. So I did.
And I played tennis until maybe around 80. And then I had a hip surgery, so I didn't play after that. But we just moved.
And you bike.
And
Yeah.
biking, yes,
Yeah.
we biked. We loved biking together, and that was fun. And then in the motorhome. Well, of course, we weren't in the motorhome that much, but when we were, we had our bikes, and we. I mean, just moving. I mean, didn't sit for long. Unfortunately, we didn't have iPads
Exactly.
and all the and we never watched TV a lot,
Mhm.
and so it wasn't anything that we constructively decided to do. It was just normal things that you just wanted to live.
Yeah.
And
tell me some of your what were some of your consistent habits around health, of things you made sure you did and then things you avoided? I'm just curious, what were some of the proactive things you tried to make sure you were eating and some of the stuff you avoided?
Well, we're very careful about what we eat. And we do read.
Helen's a very good cook. She loves to cook. And we have all along been very fussy about what we eat. I did have one health consideration 17 years ago, playing tennis and exercising on an indoor bike.
Mm-hmm.
I felt something very subtle in my chest, and I reported to our family doctor then, and he had me stay overnight. They did a working stress test, and I was told, I'm okay,
Mhm.
do what you want. But I kept feeling this. Make a long story short, I contacted Cleveland Clinic. They recommended I come down. They did some testing and said they had one calcified blockage. You couldn't use the stent they recommended. I had surgery. I did, in fact, I watched the heart operation first, and it was done by a young Croatian doctor
Hmm.
that matched my dad's heritage.
Yeah, yeah.
He now is the head of the Cleveland Clinic, which is very, very highly rated. But I've had no problems after that heart
Well, you
operation.
were smart to listen to your body. You knew, you could tell something was off.
Yeah.
Exactly. He's always been very careful about listening to his body. You ask about what we did. I don't think we did.
Well, I'm curious, specific, like what was the typical meal, specific things you did and stuff you avoided?
Well, we didn't. We avoided junk food. That's the one thing. I think that's very, very important.
I'm guessing you didn't drink soda.
No, we didn't drink soda. We have a glass of wine every day.
Life's too short not to have a nice glass of wine.
Yeah,
Good.
we
Great to
always
hear
have
that.
a glass of wine with dinner.
Yeah.
But, you know, it wasn't anything that we necessarily thought about it. You know, it's just the way
The way it was.
we were brought up. We were brought up to be active and to do things and,
Right.
you know, not sit around. And, well, there were so many things to do that you didn't have time to sit around and
Right.
think about it. You know, you wanted to do whatever you could. You read and you could be active. And sometimes if you had a good opportunity, you'd go on travel. But we didn't really say, well, we certainly didn't have time to go to the gym
Right.
with the 3 kids and stuff, but just taking care of them, it was,
Right.
you were active. So
Sure.
I don't think we ever said, well, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, or you should do this.
Right.
Because it was just, it came down.
You had probably great role models with your parents and you grew up that way. Part of the challenge that I'm trying to battle when I get in front of audiences now is that obesity, 40+% of the people are obese.
Yeah.
1/3 of the people are type 2 diabetics. So you've got so many people growing up in a family with bad health habits. They're
Right.
eating all the junk food, eating all the fast food, eating all the soda, and they're raising another generation of children that's what they know. Mom and dad aren't taking care of themselves. We're not taking care of themselves. And it's just this doom spiral of, people say, oh, type 2 diabetes runs in my family. Heart disease runs in my family. No, the lifestyle that creates those disease states runs in your family.
Exactly. Well, with eight kids, or
How many children did you guys have?
4, 3.
A phantom child.
We have an adopted daughter.
Okay.
She's not an adopted, but she's like an adopted daughter.
Sure,
So think of her as, but it wasn't. I can't really say that we did this because of that or that. It was just it was a normal lifestyle, and I think it's probably obviously it was good examples from our parents and that kind of thing.
Well, because that used to be the norm. I'm 63. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, you go to the beach, everybody's pretty much in shape.
Yeah.
You go to the beach now and you see somebody in shape and they're the outlier. It's like, wow, there's somebody in shape. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bill.
Tell you about meals when we were poor. Occasionally we would get almost relatives show up unannounced, and we would have to go out and buy enough food to try to feed everybody.
Right.
There was a wonderful story by a member of the What's My Line TV show.
Sure. What's My Line? Yep.
He talked about what they did during the Depression.
Mm-hmm.
And he said this one day, unannounced, this family with a couple of kids showed up, so they had to feed them. and all she could afford was one chicken. So she got her kids aside and said, now you kids, this is for the company, no chicken for you. They went and she made an apple pie. She said, you, my children, you didn't eat your chicken. No pie for you.
No pie for you.
Typical.
It's like the Seinfeld. No soup for you. I don't know if you guys know that reference. Jerry Seinfeld show, the soup Nazi. No soup for you. No pie for you. So
that's very, very true story. I mean, that happened all the time.
wow.
You,
Tell us about some of your guys' philosophy for just having a great relationship. 66 years, obviously, you didn't spend as much time with each other when you were both working, but now you've had 30 plus years of being together. Kind of what are the keys to that?
Well, we don't claim, we never disagreed. When some old timers are asked, did you ever have an argument? They say, no, they're out of their mind. They're crazy.
Yeah.
But we had one rule. We never went to bed upset.
Okay, good.
We made sure that did go with us. And
you always said goodnight.
yeah.
So, which sometimes was tough.
Yeah.
But that I'm sure that really happened. I remember having a friend who would tell me that she would be upset with her husband for days, and I think, how can you live like that? You know, you just can't go on.
Holding on to that anger, not healthy.
Yeah.
No.
So no, it had to end in a day.
Okay. What else?
Well, I don't know. Living day to day, it's just, you just take it as it comes. You just, if something is you don't like, well, then you talk about it and maybe get your way, maybe not. But it's just we don't have any real secrets. I mean, it's we've been very blessed, and I guess we're blessed because we can think through things and not be and not be so. I don't think either of us are selfish. So you give in, and Bill certainly gives in to me, and I give in to him, even though he doesn't think so. But it's just I don't think we really do anything that very different or very special. I couldn't say. You said, well, how did you live this long? I don't know. All I know is God blessed us and has kept us healthy, and that's about.
And your mom lived at 99?
99.
My mom passed in her 90th year, but I think that.
What do you guys do in terms of just because you're mentally sharp as sharp? Did you continue to read, do crossword puzzles, do puzzles? I'm just curious, what have you done?
Well, we read, and Bill does a lot of stuff on the sequence. He does sequences. It
well, some.
Is that a game?
Oh yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, we play. Our latest game is dice.
Okay.
we play that quite often.
Okay.
And that's fun. But
did you guys ever play card games and stuff too?
Oh yes, years ago.
What was your games?
Before the hurricane wiped out the condo, when we finished motor homing, we bought a condo that we had for 10 years, and we used to play some cards with the group there.
Shroom Pinochle, okay.
Yeah. And then, as a child, we played rummy and hearts and all kinds of things,
Because that's what the current research says is you've got to stay mentally active, not just vegging out in front of a TV,
Yeah.
chess, checkers, crossword puzzles, games, anything just to keep reading, learning.
And I think we're both very fortunate. I don't think we've been hit with the dementia or the Alzheimer's, but when our daughter, in fact, had two friends that died fairly early, and they were big time on soda, drinks, and all. Both of them, devoured that. And we never got
Right.
involved in anything like that. And I regard Helen as being brain healthy. I hope she thinks I am.
What brings you joy now? What do you guys do for fun?
I'm sorry.
What do we
What
do?
brings you joy? Puts a smile on your face? What do you guys do for fun?
Well, playing this silly dice game makes anybody laugh. Every now and then we like to catch a movie, but it's crazy. Most of the movies now have all this animation and such, but
Yeah.
recently we watched Humphrey Bogart in an old time movie called African Queen.
African Queen with Katharine Hepburn, one of the greatest
And,
ever.
the
Katharine
acting
Hepburn,
and
yes, I love her.
everything was much more impressive than a lot of the stuff. So
I've got a movie recommendation for you. I've got two of them.
Okay.
Maybe Nancy can write them down. One is Shirley MacLaine
Okay.
movie.
Okay.
It's called The Last Word.
The last
the
word.
last
The
word.
Last Word, and it's with the girl. What's her name? Amanda Siegfried. Did you see the movie Mamma Mia?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
the girl that gets married in Mamma Mia. So
Oh.
Shirley MacLaine is a big charging executive, and some of her friends have passed away, and she just hates the obituaries. So she goes down there to find out who's writing these obituaries. Phenomenal movie. And then there's a movie called Yesterday, where this guy wakes up one day and he realized through a bizarre series of events, he's the only one in the world that remembers the Beatles songs, the Beatles, the music group. And nobody else knows the Beatles except him. So it's about what happens. He starts singing some of the songs. It becomes famous. I've seen it probably 5 times. You guys will love that movie.
Yeah.
That would sound great.
Oh, it's really, really good. The music is great. The plot is great. Last Word. It's just like you said, so many of the movies are so heavy on computer graphics. There's no story.
No. And a lot of the voices you can't understand, you can't hear, you can't recognize them. It's difficult to hear them.
Yeah. Well, it helps on, you putting on the captions. I even do that too once in a while. It makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you. I want to be able to share this with other people just as an example, because I think hopefully that's what I try to get across to people some people are just on autopilot, neglecting the same stuff day after day after day.
Yeah.
And those little errors after 5, 10, 15 years add up. And you get into a situation that's really tough to turn around. So I'm trying to get to people when they're younger to look long term and say, hey, what's the end goal? Geez, I'd like, that's my goal. Bill and Helen. I want to be healthy, vital, fun, joy, married, and happy later on. But so many people don't have the habits or the mindset to get there. So I think this will be a good example to share with other people what's possible.
Well, I think right now people, I don't know if they don't think for themselves, but I think, TV and all the stuff like this, people tend to believe that more than what they really and don't think about it, because it floors me to see people who just comment about what's on TV or what they've heard and believe on everything that they see.
Well, they're not thinking for themselves, right?
There's so much incorrect information being put out, but you've got to think about it yourself. You really have to think about what you want to do, and do you want to just sit around and do nothing? Because that, and as you said before, sitting is the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
You've got to be moving. So,
Well, that's one of my keys. Motion is medicine. I mean, even I'm sure you guys are getting up, moving, even if you just get on the bike and move a little bit, or short walks, or do you guys go out of your way to get some, I guess you do down in Florida in the winter, but get some sunshine and vitamin D? Has that been something you're consciously thinking of?
down here in Florida, you get a lot of vitamin D. It's beautiful down here.
Right. When are you going back up north?
Monday.
Monday. Oh, wow.
Couple of days.
Yeah.
So are you in the Buffalo area?
Yes.
Yes.
I did an event up there for Apple a few years ago and took my youngest. I really enjoyed it. The Frederick Olmsted, who did those beautiful parks there, and the Art Deco architecture and all the big wide streets and traffic circle. It was beautiful.
It's a beautiful area. It really is.
But
And
good to be in Florida in the winter.
well, it's nice to have the warmth, and I do have arthritis, and so it's nice not to have the cold weather.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you guys for giving your time. I'll get, I've got Linda's email address, and I've got yours too. So I will put this recording together and I'll send you a copy. I'm sure your family, your grandkids might enjoy seeing it too.
Sure.
One of the things I've always told my audience is my website's getswitchedon.com, and under my blog, if you search 98 questions, and I did it with my parents and I did it with her parents, to sit them down, and it's kind of 98 questions to kind of capture the legacy of this current generation, to share it. I have a friend, Mark Scherenbrock, says, once people are gone, the library's closed.
Exactly.
No story stops. So if people want to do something like this in more detail with their parents or grandparents, those 98 questions on my blog will give a good basis point where to start.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, I just want to, I'm going to stay on. I'm just going to stop the recording, but thank you guys so much. Let me do this.
Well, good luck to you.
Yes.